Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building. He's back.
Yes.
Michael Rubin. Welcome back, sir.
Your official title is Philadelphia 76ers partner and Reform Alliance co-chair.
That's right.
I like it. Glad to be here. Excited to be here.
You know,
Glad to have you back.
It's interesting because I hear your name a lot when it comes to people who talk about white men or white people who didn't know exactly what was going on in the system, but when they found out, it was like they just had this awakening, and now they're all in on doing what's right.
And want to make a change.
You know what? Sometimes you can be oblivious, and then something can wake you up. And going through what I went through with Meek a few years ago, I don't know how you couldn't be woken up to it. I mean, it was one of the most disgusting and disturbing things I've ever seen in my life. So definitely was a hard wake up, and it's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to make a real difference about it.
Now, I was talking to you outside. You said the Pennsylvania state legislator will vote on this bill soon. Now tell people what this bill is and why you're nervous about the outcome.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm always nervous about anything before it gets done. That's my personality. So I wake up and go to bed paranoid. I think that's a good thing to do.
It's called anxiety.
Yeah, and it's natural for me. So the Reform Alliance is 100% focused on changing the laws that affect probation and parole. You know, I think you guys know the numbers. There's 6.7 million people in the system in America, stuck in the system, 5 times the rate of incarceration of the rest of the world. But 4.5 million are on probation and parole, so it's 2/3 of the system. So in Pennsylvania, we're actually the third worst state in the country. So 1 in 35 people are on probation and parole in Pennsylvania. So 1 in 35 people under supervision in Pennsylvania. Third worst state in the country as far as percentage of people under supervision. So we've got a bill focused 100% on probation. Both House Bill 1555 and Senate Bill 14 that are focused on doing 3 things, 3 really important things. The first is putting limits on how long you can be on probation. So they'll put limits of 2 years on misdemeanors, 5 years on felonies. And by the way, that's how most states work today. The majority of states have limits on how long you can be on probation, but Pennsylvania has no limits. So I think you guys remember, Meek was on probation for 12 years and had another 6 years left, so he had 18 years of probation. I just met somebody with 23 years of probation.
That's
it's impossible to not screw up. There's no way.
Yeah.
None of us could be on probation. I couldn't be on probation for a year. So this puts limits on how long you can be on probation, number one. Number two, it really stops you from being able to go to prison for not committing a crime. There are, in Pennsylvania, 25% of the people that go to jail and prison each year go for technical violations. They didn't commit a crime. And that's crazy. Like, I didn't know people, before 2 years ago, I didn't know people went to prison for not committing a crime. So this is basically essentially going to, you can't afford your fines, which happens all the time.
Right.
You're late to see your probation officer. You're not going to go to prison for that. And this happens today. 1 in 4 people who go to prison in Pennsylvania are for these technical violations. By the way, Pennsylvania is spending $100 million a year putting people in prison who haven't committed a crime. Crazy.
Is there a lot of private prisons in Pennsylvania? Got to be, right?
I think it's more the stupidity of the system, to be honest. I'm sure there are some, and I'm not an expert on the private prisons versus the public prisons, but I could tell you that, it's just fundamentally a broken system. And then the last thing is giving kind of benefits for good behavior to reduce your probation. So those are the 3 changes to the law that we want to get implemented. Right now, we've got Republicans and Democrats working very hard together. The great thing in Pennsylvania, everyone's come together on this. There's like hundreds of people, both Republicans and Democrats, all working together. They're working their butts off to get this done. And we're hoping this gets done in December. And this could be, I think, honestly, maybe the biggest thing to happen in criminal justice reform, because you're talking about there's 200,000 people on probation in Pennsylvania. This could probably make an impact for 100,000 people-ish. So it's a significant impact, change people's lives right away. So we couldn't be more excited to make it happen. Meek's from Philadelphia. I'm from Pennsylvania. Everyone's working together well to make this happen. So it's a huge focus.
But what can people do? Like, we always talk about what, people listening, they always feel like they can't do anything. What can they do?
Call your state reps and tell them we got to get House Bill 1555 and Senate Bill 14 passed. Like, we want everyone reaching out saying how important it is to get this done. People care. There's like everywhere I walk in Pennsylvania now, anyone in politics, like, we're focused on getting this done. So I think just seeing how important this is to the general population is so important. And by the way, like, some of the stories you see are crazy. I don't know if you guys saw last week, Meek and I went to prison. Did you guys see the story last week of
Say he went to visit a prison.
Yeah, we went. Yeah, yes, thank you. That shows,
Short little stay you and
shows
me
the
did.
unawareness of someone who grows up middle class. Yeah, I got
went
you.
to prison.
Yeah,
No.
I think. Sorry, I did not go to prison. I mean, Meek and I went to visit prison. We heard about the story. By the way, same judge as Meek. Crazy story. So, a guy who was 19 years old was a lookout man for a robbery where I think it was like $300 involved. And he went to prison for, I think it was 8 or 10 months. And he paid, he should have gone to prison. He was part of a robbery. He paid his price. He got probation, ended up having 10 years of probation because the same judge, he gives you probation.
10 years probation.
Yeah. He got 5 up front, and then he couldn't pay his fine, so he got another 5, I think. So he's been on probation. He's now 29. He's been on probation for 10 years. He's never committed a crime in the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's been sent to prison twice because the first time he didn't get his GED.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't afford to pay his fines.
Oh, I did see that case somewhere.
And this guy went to prison the first time for 1 to 2 years, and then just about a year ago, he had $1,900 in back fines, and he got sent to prison for another 18 to 36 months.
Damn.
So basically, it's like a debtor's prison. It's like you're poor. We're putting people in prison for
being
poor. For being poor.
Yeah, I saw Meek post that, and is that the same case where the guy couldn't pay his child support or something too?
Yeah. By the way, this guy's got 2 kids with special needs.
That's him. Yeah.
Okay, he's making $600. He's staying home taking care of his kids. He's making $600 as a part-time janitor. He gets put in prison. You hear these stories, and if I tell anyone if you look in this country, you tell 2/3 of the country about this, they would never believe it's possible.
Right.
How is someone going to prison for not being able to pay their fines? I just read about a case this morning. A woman in Pennsylvania, Johanna Fisher. She got a DUI. She got 7.5 years of probation. Makes sense to me. Okay, I get it. Her probation officer shows up, and by the way, she was never told she wasn't allowed to drink. Probation officer shows up and sees an unopened bottle of wine in her house, puts her in prison for 30 days. While she's in prison for 30 days, her kid tries to commit suicide.
Wow.
Okay? By the way, she was never told that she wasn't allowed to drink. It's just so the laws, and I look, and honestly, I think there's actually a lot of good people working around the system. When Meek and I went to visit the prison last week, the team there was working to be helpful and rehabilitate people and do the right thing. To me, it's the system's broken. There's a lot of good people in a very broken system, and that's why we're going after changing the laws. That's why getting these laws in Pennsylvania changed is so important.
You know what's so crazy? I was on probation for over a decade in South Carolina, and I never thought anything of it. And the reason I never thought anything of it because I was like, it's better than the alternative,
going
which
to
is jail.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not sure that you're right. And I used to have this debate with Meek, and Meek would say to me, he'd say, Michael, I would take another year in prison to be done with probation, because he'd say to me, I'm just waking up every month thinking, when am I going back to prison? And this guy, Meek and I spoke to him, Maurice Hudson, for an hour plus on Friday, and he kept saying to me, like, I just know I'm going to go back to prison. So it's funny you say that you didn't think you were going to go back to prison, because the way Meek grew up and the way this guy Maurice Hudson grew up, it's just the expectation that part of being on probation is you go back to prison multiple times while you're on probation.
Yeah, I agree. I think that being on probation for that amount of time is wrong. But I just didn't think anything of it.
Did you have the fear? Did you have the fear that you were going to go back to prison?
All the time, man. Especially when I used to smoke weed. You know what I mean? Because I thought that I would have to, go in there and fail my piss test. So I would be taking the golden seal and the cat's claw and all of that shit to try to clean your system out. That shit was just too much pressure, so I just stopped smoking.
Now, you mentioned Meek's judge. Whatever happened to her? Was she thrown off the case?
She was thrown off of Meek's case.
Mm-hmm.
She's still a practicing judge. She's got another 3 years left. To me, it's actually an embarrassment that she's still on the bench because, she represents, yes, the system's fundamentally broken. And I generally think, I have respect for most people in the system. Mm-hmm. She's one of the people where I say the system's broken and allowed her to do what she did, but she's fundamentally a flawed individual who is not fit to be a judge, and she's still on the bench today, putting people like Maurice Hudson in prison because they can't afford $1,900 in fine. By the way, you know what it costs to be in prison? And I hate to even approach it from an economic perspective, but I try to, appeal to all people.
Right.
We see it one way, and I think from an economic perspective, we see it another way. It costs like $50,000, $60,000 a year to keep somebody in prison. So someone can't afford $1,900 in fines. You now put them in prison for 18 to 36 months. It's going to cost the government of Pennsylvania $100,000, and you're ruining their lives and screwing up their kids for $1,900.
How much free labor do they get out of these guys, though?
It
might cost them $50,000 to keep them in prison, but they might do $2-3 million a year in free labor.
But even when they get out, they still owe $1,900. That doesn't.
But this guy, let me tell you, this guy, he had no chance. I met with a guy. He was he had the right intentions. This guy, he couldn't. He's like, Oh, but the other thing, he went to prison for the first time. It was 3 things. He didn't get his GED. He had an under-the-table job. Okay, guess what? When you're on probation, how hard is it to get a job?
Hell yeah.
Right. So it's like the system is set up to keep people stuck in the system, and that's why, we're not merging worlds as quickly as we need to.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. How long did it take for you to get so immersed in this? Because, I mean, you're in the middle of the season. So you got to wake up. You probably want to see scores. You want to see stats.
Middle of the season, the start of the season.
You running this.
No, he's talking about November 6th, 2017. It was the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And you're rattling this stuff off like you probably could rattle off basketball scores.
It took me, as soon as Janice Brinkley, Meek's judge, said, you're going to prison for 2 to 4 years, it was like I didn't believe it was possible. Like an hour earlier, I was saying to Meek, there is no chance you're going to prison. It is not going to happen. Okay, and I told him that 100 times because, as someone from my world, you don't go to prison if you don't commit a crime.
Right.
So once I saw that happen, it was like an immediate obsession of mine. But the fundamental change was I really thought originally, and we talked about this last time, that it was just Meek had a crazy judge. And by the way, he did have a crazy judge. And so all of my focus in the first month or two was about getting Meek out of prison. And that's what, Jay-Z and Rock Nation, myself, it's 100% of what our focus was. But then once it became clear that everything he said from day one, that he never pointed the gun, that the whole thing was a lie, and then we still took another 3 months to get him out of prison, that's when the light bulb went off. I'm like, man, this isn't just a bad judge and a really bad set of freak circumstances. The system is fundamentally broken. And that's when our focus went from how do we get Meek out of prison to how do we fix the underlying problem. And the thing in criminal justice that I think is really interesting, like at my core, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hardcore business person. So for me, I'm always about like, how do you solve problems? It's just the way my brain is wired. So you can't fight this case at a time. That's a losing proposition. You need to fix the underlying problem.
The legislation.
Right. That's right. And so my immediate thing was because remember, I knew nothing about this. Meek went to prison November 6, 2017. I didn't know a thing about it other than that you didn't go to prison if you didn't commit a crime. Obviously, I was wrong. Once I got really interested in this, as soon as Meek got out, I started meeting with everybody in criminal justice reform. It was kind of like I was sizing up the industry. It's the same thing I do in business. When I got interested in the internet, I went and met with everybody in the business. When I got interested in whatever business, I always just meet everybody around. And what I quickly realized, which was fascinating, was 2 things. One, that probation and parole was 2/3 of the system, and that nobody had been focused on it. So that made it was like the area that we need to focus on. The second thing was that if you try to fix individual issues versus the underlying problem, you're never going to win. And that's why the only time that the Reform Alliance takes on a case is when the case is in a state focused on probation or parole where we're trying to change the laws. So for me, Maurice Hudson represents everything that's broken in Pennsylvania because he's in prison for not being able to pay $1,900 in fines when he was on probation. Johanna Murphy, who we just talked about, went to prison for 30 days because she had an unopened bottle of wine in her Johanna Murphy, actually, we used to work at my old company. Johanna Fisher went to prison for 30 days because she had an unopened bottle of wine and got sent for a technical probation violation. So for us, everything is about changing the underlying system.
Are there any updates on getting Maurice Hudson released? Because when I see stuff like that, I'm going to be honest with you, I'll be like, bro, I can pay this for him.
So I paid. By the way, I paid it the day I saw it. I mean,
okay.
By the way, the crazy thing was I didn't find it. What's really happened that's been amazing. The other thing we're focused on at the Reform Alliance is spreading the word and being on a show with you guys today. This helps to educate people. Now, probably your audience probably has a better understanding than just overall America has. But I tell you that so many people don't understand these issues, and in Pennsylvania, it's already getting better because people are basically people are starting to look at you crooked now when you do dumb things. So when a judge puts someone in prison for no reason, people are like, wow, that's screwed up. So the Philadelphia Inquirer, the paper in Philadelphia, has been doing an amazing job on their own without us pushing on all kinds of reporting. And they broke the story of Maurice Hudson.
Wow.
I read about it and said, this is really fucked up. I read it on a Sunday night. I had someone pay his fines Monday morning. And then I'm like, okay, we're getting everyone together. We're getting Meek's legal team together. How are we getting this guy out of prison? And by the way, that it was also Meek's judge. It was like everything about this said we have to help this guy. So
he's still in?
He's been in for over a year.
Even after the fines are paid?
After the fines are paid. So he's got no fines due. So he's now got the Superior Court, which is one court above the Common Pleas Court, which is where Judge Brinkley is looking at this case now. And I think they're going to look at it at the latest in January. But again, why are you guys so helpful getting the message out for people who are in prison who didn't commit crimes like Maurice Hudson? It puts pressure on people to do the right thing, and that's why it's so important to talk about these
things. Do you get backlash from all the stuff that you do from the judges and talking about the judges and talking about the system? Do you have any problems? Anybody take shots at you, anything like that?
Well,
what are you laughing about?
Your hair looks mad Daddy Yankee-ish.
Yo, man, leave my hair alone.
Like it's distracting me.
First of all, I walked in. I actually was distracted by him because I thought he looked in such better shape. No, I was I'm like, last time I saw this guy, he was pudgy. Now he's in good shape. So I was like, shit,
you got hair
I'm
now?
the fattest guy in the room now. So I'm like, I'm not eating for I'm going on a starvation diet right now.
I have hair plugs, but I'm
do.
just letting my hair grow.
Yo, you've seen LeBron up close and personal.
Okay,
right?
so I'm the most transparent person.
Come on,
hold on. I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm
not touching that.
Hold on.
Tell him it's real.
It's not. I don't care what that.
Pull it, touch it up.
Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a story that's gonna make you crack up right now.
Okay. It's real.
I believe it's real.
Thank you.
Hold on. Now,
That's because he believes in you.
Hold on. So I'm gonna tell you a story. This shows you how comfortable I am with myself. I'm at the All-Star game this past year, and I had about 10 too many drinks. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Mav Carter, who I'm sure you guys know, and I was like, really,
what up, Mav?
Yeah, I was out of my mind. So I was like playing with Mav's hair. I'm like, man, I gotta get hair like you. He's like, Rubin, I'm going to change your life, okay? He says, let me show you these pictures of LeBron. He shows me these pictures of LeBron and his hair a long time ago and his hair today. He said, here's who you need to call. And literally, I did it, and I have a lot more hair.
So you got hair plugs too?
They're not plugs, man.
I don't have plugs.
Hold on. They're not plugs.
Tell me what it is.
You take the follicles from the back of your head to
Yeah.
the front of your head. By the way, go ahead. I'm not shy.
Yeah.
It looks good. My hair looks good, so you know what?
That's not mine. I'm just letting mine grow.
No.
Hold on.
Here we go.
I know what it is now, Michael.
I saw
Thank
a picture
you.
of him in the doctor's office. There's a picture of him.
I know
He
it
was
is.
there.
I know it is.
He was in the office I went to in Chicago. They
I know
said
what it is.
DJ Envy.
I know
He
it
was
is.
there. He's coming out with a marketing campaign.
It's the
soon.
hair follicle. See, I keep saying hair plugs, so you can say they're not hair plugs. It's that follicle
It's
shit.
no follicle.
Yes, it is.
It's not no damn
you
follicle.
fucker. you, bro.
Listen, I had 2,500 follicles from the back of my head to the front of my head. I got
you were bald?
I mean, I was balding, and I got to tell you something. It was like one of the better things I did. It was 2 days. It was great. So you know what? What's going on in your head? I don't know.
Oh, you don't want to see mine. I ain't got no
He
haircut.
needs more than follicles.
But
He needs more than plugs.
I'm going out like this, bro.
I'm just going to tell you right
I'm
now.
going out recede.
Let me tell you something right now. Everyone I talk to, when they see it, they're like, how do I get this? I must have sent 50 people to this guy so far. Like, I'm single-handedly driving this guy's business in Chicago.
But that's not me. I got hair here.
Yeah, right.
forget. So back to the judge. Is there any backlash?
Oh, I just want to say we may need to do an independent audit and study of your hair. We may need to test it right now.
I agree.
And we also need to test him to see if he's taking weight loss drugs or something.
agree.
Because this guy, he does look pretty good from the last time.
It's the
he was
hair.
skinnier. He was in big hoodies before. Now he's in
Yes.
slimming t-shirts.
Hair makes you look younger. I'm serious.
That's why I moved the hair from the back of my head to the front of my head.
And every day his hair texture changes. That's why it kept distracting me. Every time he talk, I'm like, I'm not looking at Envy. And I looked at him and it was just shiny and black. I'm like, yo, this guy looks really Dominican today. He's real Daddy Yankee.
Back to the backlash now. Are you getting any backlash from the judges or the system at all?
So the answer is, of course, first of all, as we just displayed, I'm someone who doesn't really give a shit about what anyone thinks. I just always do what I think is the right thing. So yes, you're certainly, when you go and try to change a fundamentally broken system, and the criminal justice system is really broken, there's going to be lots of people that aren't happy with it. But the one thing that I always try to do is work together with everybody. And I think that goes a long way. I think that's kind of a business approach. Like, I'm not someone who's like, I see things like just one way and I can't compromise and I can't be open-minded. So for me, I look at the issues we have with law enforcement. But I think there's lots of good people, great people in law enforcement.
Absolutely.
Who are protecting us and who are keeping us safe. And I appreciate them. And I make sure to thank them every time I'm in contact with them. And I make sure there's lots of good judges and there's lots of, great people that work at the prison. So I look and say, there's more good people than not good people in the system, but the system's fundamentally broken, and that's why we need to fix the system. So I think, I'll tell you a great story. Like when Meek and I went to visit the prison on Friday, we were so interested to talk to all the people that were working the prison and the programs they were doing, and they were appreciative of the opportunity to explain to us. And there's this woman, Tammy, who's runs the prison, and it was like, she as excited as we were to learn from her, she was excited to kind of educate us. And so, and she, by the way, she does a good job running this prison. She's really focused on helping to develop people there. So I think if you approach this with an attitude of there's more good people than not, we're going to work together with everybody, then you make more friends up front. But yeah, of course, you're still pissing lots of people off. I mean, don't forget, when I when this thing happened with Meek, everyone told me I was fucking nuts. People were like, Michael, you are out of your mind. Do not do this. Do not get involved in this. This is going to be bad for your business. We were getting letters to fanatics saying we're not going to buy from you anymore. People were sending letters to the Sixers saying they want to cancel their tickets. I just didn't care. Like, for me.
What did your partners think, though?
Well, look, and I was really fortunate because, Josh Harris and Dave Blitzer are the two managing partners of the Sixers. And basically, look, they knew Meek, and they're like, listen, we've known this guy for years. He's a great guy. You support, like, we're behind you in whatever way you want.
Yep.
They were great. By the way, Adam Silver, he was the first phone call I made. He's like, Michael, I've known you 20 years. Like, I trust your judgment. If you tell, I've met Meek before, but if you tell me this guy's good, I'm behind you. So fortunately, being part of the NBA was like, you had complete support from the league office and from the two managing partners of the Sixers. And it was great because, the Sixers, I think got involved from a, it didn't look good for the Sixers up front, but Josh and David were fully behind it, and the NBA was fully behind it, and we proved out to be 100% right because, when you really know someone, you know what they're made of. And, I knew him so well that there was no question his integrity and what I believe.
I mean, the NBA usually does stand for what's right, except for when it comes to China.
Look, one thing I've learned, I have become immersed in the issue of criminal justice reform. I know a lot about it. The dynamics in China, I can tell you, I wouldn't begin to really understand them. Like, I was in China when that happened randomly, nothing to do with the NBA. And, like, you talk to people in China, you talk to people in Hong Kong, I was just, like, asking questions. It's such a complicated issue. I mean, and I'll tell you, the one thing I've learned from that, just watching that from the outside, is I speak on things I really understand. And, like, I think I understand the math of criminal justice reform and what's going on there as well as anybody. I don't talk about shit if I don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's also something I've learned.
You think LeBron should have kept quiet on that?
I think LeBron's LeBron because he expresses, like, I think LeBron, like, I love that LeBron speaks about so many issues. And by the way, not everyone's going to agree with each other, but so I think it's what makes LeBron great is that he speaks on issues.
Do you are y'all going to roll this out to other states? This bill?
Definitely, 100%. So our goal is to get it right in Pennsylvania first, which we hope to get done by the end of the year. That's why we need everyone to call their reps and tell them how important getting Senate Bill 1555 and I'm sorry, House Bill 1555 and Senate Bill 14 passed are. Once we get it done, we're going to go to 5 or 6 states next year. Some of the bigger states will be Georgia, worst state in the country. 700,000 people in Georgia on probation.
Shit.
Wow.
700,000 people.
Virginia got to be up there too.
It's funny. I'll tell you a funny story. It thank God it's like it came out the right way. But I was at a party with Quavo a few months ago. And
Quavo.
And I said, and I looked at him. I said, "Are you on probation?" He's like, "Why would you think I'm on probation?" And I was like, "Well, there's 750,000 people on probation in your state, so I just assumed like everyone's on probation." He's like, "No, I'm not on probation." But it was just like,
Michael, if I didn't know you, I would say that's some racist shit.
But
you profiled the fuck out of Quavo.
No, what I actually did was look at how, no, actually what I really did, I didn't. But what I really did was look at the math. Yeah, 1 in 7. Yeah, it's either 1 in 17 or 1 in 16 people in the state on probation. By the way, think about that. That's like in this room, somebody's going to be on probation. So
but why Quavo?
Because he's just from the state. I'm just like, I figure everyone's on probation.
There's no white guy in the room you could have asked?
He was the only guy I was talking to was from Georgia. We know
Got you. I know, but I'm just saying it can come off that way.
That's why I said I was joking, and I was comfortable to say it but he was like, and he was like, he wasn't even aware how screwed up his state is. So by the way, we're going to need everyone working in Georgia next. Like Georgia is, I mean, it's the most screwed up state of all of the states. Again, 700,000 people. That's like, I can't even get my head around that. That's like 10 football stadiums. That's 10 football stadiums filled with people that are on probation or parole in Georgia. We're going to go after Michigan's another state that needs a lot of help. And the big states, like the way we're going to do this, very business oriented.
You go to Michigan, ask Eminem if he's on probation.
Is he?
I don't know. You should ask him.
He might be.
Just to balance it out.
Listen, I'll ask everyone. You know me. I learn, but let me tell you something. As I told you, the way I learn is by asking questions all the time. And then, you know what? You gain information. When you barely made it out of high school, which I barely made it out of high school, when you didn't go to college, I went for 6 weeks. The way you learn is by being a sponge. You ask lots of questions.
That's a fact.
So I'm always asking lots of questions.
Absolutely.
So I'll ask people, by the way, I'll walk up to 10 people. When I was in China, I was asking people, hey, what do you think about this? And I was getting lots of different perspectives. So to me, that is the way I always learn and grow is by asking questions.
Now, you mentioned football stadium. Are you still trying to buy a football franchise?
Look, for me, if the right situation comes up, I'd love to do it. I was excited about the Panthers.
Yeah, what happened with the Panthers?
At the end of the day, the owner didn't want to sell the team to me. I mean, that's really,
just you personally.
Yeah, he didn't. You know, he wasn't engaged in selling the team to me. I
Really?
would. You know, I think the price that was paid was a fair price. We had an incredible group together. Who was going to buy the team?
Why didn't he want to sell you? You hang around too much black people?
I don't. You'd have to ask him. You know, I think look, he didn't want to sell the team to me. I think the league would have loved it. I think there was tremendous support from so many owners in the league who wanted me to be part of the league. I think, again, the price that was paid was a fair price, and I would have loved the opportunity.
How much did you offer him?
I mean, we started and I don't want to get into exact details because we're under NDA, but the price, let me just say the price that was paid was a very fair price.
Who was the group? Was it a diverse group? Or?
It was a very diverse group.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Maybe that's probably what it was.
Yeah, well, look, I could tell you, I think it would have been a very good situation. But to answer the question that you asked, would I like to do it? Here's the way I look at it. I'm having a great time doing what I'm doing. Like, building Fanatics is incredible. You know, I bought the company back from eBay in 2011. It was a $250 million company. We'll do $3.2 billion in revenue next year, and I feel like we're just starting. I'm having a great time building the Reform Alliance. It's like, it's really gratifying to be able to help people. And it's like, I never had that emotion before everything happened with, Meek 2 years ago. And to be able to know you can impact millions of people's lives directly and tens of millions of people's lives indirectly is really interesting. Being a partner of the Sixers has been fascinating for me, both from a growing perspective and adding value to the situation. So I love what I'm doing, but if the right situation comes up, I would definitely do it. But it's not like if it doesn't work out, I'm good too.
Now,
Let's talk Colin Kaepernick real quick.
But before you go to Colin, you mentioned Fanatics. Are you doing something with the American Dream Mall?
We are. Yes. I'm not sure if that was announced yet, but I guess it just was announced. By the way, so good job on breaking. Good job on breaking news here on the Breakfast Club. We are. We're going to be opening. So I'm also myself and Meek are owners of Lids, and between us and Lids, we're going to be opening a massive store in American Dream in what year? In 2020.
Oh.
Got the year we're in for a second.
I want to talk Colin a little bit. Do you have a relationship with Colin?
I know Colin pretty well.
Do you ever use your influence among NFL owners to, get him a job? Because he's getting a tryout this Saturday.
Look, so first of all, I haven't, I know Colin well enough. I certainly would love to see him back in the league. I think it'd be great for a lot of reasons. By the way, I joke about this, but I joke with Colin. I've said to him before, no one would sell more jerseys than Colin, so he'd be a Fanatics jersey selling machine. But on a serious note, I think it'd just be great for how we bring people together, and I think it would be a really good thing. I'd love to see it happen. So,
Have you ever used your influence though with the owners, like to say, "Hey, man, Robert signed Colin"?
Look, at the end of have I pushed the agenda over the years? Absolutely. At the end of the day, here's what I can tell you. When you own a sports team, whether it's an NBA team or an NFL team, you wake up and go to bed if you're a good owner obsessed with how to win. And I can tell you, I think that Colin having a tryout coming up and having a lot of teams attending and every team watching him is a great step to getting him back on the football field. And I hope I hope that opportunity gets seized. Because to me, like the way I've always grown up as an entrepreneur is you see an opportunity, you got to go for it. You got to seize the opportunity. So, I think this is a great thing. Like, look, you've got to look, let's keep it real here because everyone knows each other. You've got to applaud the NFL, and Roger was very smart for partnering with Jay and Rock Nation.
I think so.
Well, what did you think about that? Because a lot of people were mad about that.
Well, they're wrong.
Yeah, was it wrong?
No, anyone who's mad is dead wrong. First of all, let's break it down piece by piece.
Sure.
Roger and the NFL was brilliant for partnering with Jay and Rock Nation because I think they recognized opportunities to learn from Rock Nation, to have good input and advice coming from Rock Nation. So the people that say to me, and this is actually offensive to me, and I don't get offended by anything. I don't actually, you can offend me, I don't care, but actually offending Jay and Rock Nation is actually offensive. Like, I have no business relationship with Rock Nation. I never have. I probably never will. It's purely just like we got into something together with what happened with Meek, and then we started the Reform Alliance together with Robert Kraft and with Jay and with Meek. What I've learned about Jay is I haven't seen him ever care about money. Like, this guy is not money motivated. This guy's made billions already, so he doesn't care about money. He cares about making the country and the world a better place. And so when the NFL and Roger approached him, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I think what went through his head is, I can make a real difference from the inside. This is one of the biggest platforms in the world, okay? I can use this platform to make a difference and to help bring people together. So I don't think he really gave a shit about producing music or about, halftime. I think that was, for him where he could, help the NFL and add value. But I think what he really wanted to do was work together to solve problems. And I think that's great for the NFL. And I think it's great for Jay and Rock Nation. I think they've got, a great partnership that could produce incredible results. So when people say to me, they think Jay sold out, and honestly, it's a joke. Like, this is a guy who doesn't care about money, who's only did this because he wants to help make the country and world a better place.
And why would he sell out? This is the bottom of the ninth inning for him.
Forget about this. There's not even any money involved. This money to Jay is like, I think it's what he spent on watches that he sent out to his friends for the charity thing that's coming up tomorrow night. So this is, there's no money involved in it. You talk about the money that's involved for him, it's meaningless. This is all about, can the NFL and Jay work together to make the country a better place? And I got to tell you something. Again, say whatever you want about the NFL, but you've got to give Roger and the NFL credit for saying these guys could be helpful and listen to him. So if you think Jay wasn't out there pushing this agenda, of course he wasn't. You got to give Roger credit for listening, the NFL credit for listening. The NFL, I think, from my perspective, is doing everything they can to help facilitate this now. And now Cap's got to go out and seize the opportunity.
Yeah, there's been some rumors that Jay was influential in getting Cap the tryout.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think it's right. And I think, again, if you go back to knowing what Jay stands for, I mean, look, I've been through 2 wars already with, the war of the Meek War for 6 months was one of the most intense things I've been through in my life, maybe the most intense thing. And then starting the Reform Alliance, which is, we've raised more than $50 million, got incredible people involved, hired an incredible team, focused on this fight in Pennsylvania now. And these guys, like, I'm leaving here, going to our board meeting for reform. Jay will be the first person to show up for the board meeting. He'll be the last person to leave. He'll be the only person that doesn't look at his phone during the meeting, because that's who he is, because he cares so much about these topics. And so I don't know how people, it's like everyone just wants to be negative. Like, people should be like, this is great. We got one of our own in here trying to help make a difference. And, for Cap, look, you can debate whatever you want. For 3 years, he hasn't been on the football field. He says he wants to play. Like, go kill it on Saturday and seize the opportunity. Because, look, I'm someone who always takes opportunities in business. And so, like, he's got to do that.
Do you think it's a PR stunt by the NFL?
I don't. I really don't. I think it's a step. I think, again, we just said, like, if you listen to that, if you believe the rumors, which I do, that, Jace has some influence on the NFL and Roger's a good listener and the NFL's a good listener, they believe it would be a great thing to do. I think the NFL's trying to do what they can to facilitate it. At the end of the day, remember one thing. The NFL cannot make any team sign him or not. And here's the most important thing I'm going to tell you. If you own an NFL team, you'll do anything to win. If Colin can give a team a better chance of winning, they're going to sign him. Okay? And now what you've seen is, before there might have been a feeling that, hey, I'm not sure. Now there's a push from the. This is definitely a push from the league, and you can't debate that this is a push from the league.
Now, one more question on that. Final question. Why do you think he was blackballed to begin with?
I don't think so. I'm going to give you a different perspective, and this is not like, me. I always say what's on my mind. I think it was just a complicated issue. I don't really. And I don't want to get into the sides of, because I like Cap and I want the best for Cap and I want him in the league, and so I don't want to say anything against either side here. But I honestly think that I don't think he was. That's my honest opinion. But there's now a push to get him back in the league, and there's a big difference. And so now you have the league out there saying, hey, let's create this tryout. Let's get as many teams there as we can.
We hope somebody signs him.
Yeah, let's send the video to everyone. Let me tell you something. If he looks great, he's going to play in the NFL again.
Yeah, because, to me, that was just a bat signal to tell teams, like, okay, you can sign him. Like the NFL said, we hope that he gets signed.
And again, it's not a coincidence. They've been in business with Jay for how long? Couple months? Yeah. Okay. So it's like Jay's pushing. He cares about these issues, and this is the way Jay works. And so I think it would be great. I'm rooting for it to happen. I think, again, when I look at, like, bringing people together, I think it'd be a great moment when we look back in 10 years, 20 years to say this was something incredible that happened. So I hope it works out. And I hope Colin seizes the opportunity.
And I hate when people say it's a PR thing, because I'm like, the NFL makes $10 billion a year.
Yeah, they don't need a PR.
17 billion.
Yeah,
do you think they give a fuck?
I think what you have is that Roger was very smart for saying, hey, I'm going to partner with Jay and Rock Nation. I think he listened, and I think Jay pushed, and I think, that's a good thing. And again, I'm not first saying these conversations, but I'm also around the business, so I'm giving you my honest perspective.
Now, what's your relationship with Drake?
I have a good relationship.
Are you mentoring him at all? Or
no. We're more bantering friends during the NBA. Either gambling friends or bantering friends. Those are the two. I will say he did get the better of me during the basketball season. He would. I got many pictures of him in Sixers clothes, because I do think he really was cursed. Whatever clothes he wears, you did get the opposite reaction for us. So, we had a lot of back and forth during the season, and we hang from time to time. But
when Kawhi Leonard hit that shot last year,
oh boy,
do you really want to make me say it again?
Yeah,
I'm a happy person.
What did you feel like?
Let me tell you what I feel like. I'm gonna actually give you I'm gonna reincarnate it for you. Like, literally, the shot went up and it bounced. I stood up and I went like this because I was on the other side of the court. and I had 4 seconds of complete happiness.
Right.
Because the ball bounced. I was literally in the air like I thought it was overtime. And then the place goes crazy. And I'm like, I was confused. I was literally confused. I'm like, what is going on? I'm literally, because there was like there was 2 camera guys standing in front of me. I was completely confused. And then like I just sat there like and watched it for like 2 minutes. I looked at my daughter. I looked at my mom. I said, let's go. We left.
Damn.
And then I got the barrage from Drake. Then I got the Instagram story of him in the Sixers shorts saying nighty night to Joel, me in bed, and I got a bunch of bantering text messages, and that was it.
What are y'all trading Ben Simmons? I think I saw Kendrick Perkins yesterday say that y'all should trade Ben Simmons.
Yeah, look, I don't ever talk about individual players. Just that we got a great GM in Elton. I can tell you, look, I'm a huge believer in Ben, but I'm not. This is it's Josh and David's team, and it's ultimately Elton's the GM, and so he makes all the personnel decisions.
Well, do you pay attention to what they say on ESPN? Because like they're picking Philly as a favorite, but they're like, yo, if Ben Simmons gets a jump shot, Sixers will go to the finals. I think I saw Stephen A. Smith say that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you ask me if I'm normal if I watch ESPN.
Yeah.
So I've got some bit of normality in my life. I do watch ESPN. I mean, look, one of the things, when you're a athlete in a professional sport, when you're, when you're involved in ownership or partner in a team, you need to be thick-skinned. And so, there's been rumors about every player, every player has rumors every year. So I don't, you see it, but it doesn't even faze you.
Y'all lost some good pieces, though.
We also gained some
Jimmy
good pieces.
Butler, J.J. Redick.
Yeah, we gained some good pieces. I think we've got an incredible team. I think we can do great things this season. I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to nothing would give me greater pleasure than to be holding the trophy at the end of the year, and then also be able to pick back a Drake a little bit.
How do you feel when these players want to leave, though? When Jimmy Butler wanted to go and J.J. Redick wanted to go, how do you feel?
I got to tell you something. It's one of the things that I've had to learn is you need to compartmentalize your relationships. Like I've got great relationships with certainly with Joel, who's family to me.
He's been on vacation with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've got great relationships with some other players in the NBA. You learned is just there's a business, and you just got to compartmentalize things. So I think the team has to do what's best for the team. The players have to do what's best for each other, and then you try to compartmentalize things. And that's why I think generally when guys and by the way, if you look at the math of a team, there's so much turnover in any league. I think 35% a year. So you learn it's business, and that's why I don't become emotional about it. Other than after those 4 seconds in Toronto, and I was slightly emotional.
No permanent enemies or friends when it comes to business.
I agree with that. I agree. Well, maybe a few actually. There could be a few, but I won't get it. Yeah, but I try to keep no permanent enemies or friends. I keep more friends than enemies actually.
Well, we thank you for joining us and appreciate you. And just let you know, Carmelo's is he's not doing anything.
He's your guy?
That's my guy.
Why isn't Melo picked up? Like, is that a thing? Like, is there a
He's not
conversation
doing
amongst
anything,
partners?
man. He can still play. He still balls.
I got to tell you something. Look, I'm all about the comeback story. I think anything's possible. Someone, if he wants to keep playing, you keep practicing. You never know when the opportunity comes up. I think life's weird. I mean, I don't think anyone would have thought that Cap was going to have a tryout this Saturday.
That's true.
And here you go. And so, to me, if I'm Carmelo, I'm going to just keep working my ass off and hope the opportunity comes.
Have y'all considered him?
I always make one commitment, which is it's Elton's. He's the GM. He speaks about the player issues. I don't. But I like that you keep asking.
All right.
I appreciate that. You should be. Let's go back to talking about his hair or something.
Nah, man.
Or how skinny he got.
It's Michael Rubin. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.